Tonight we are already 10. We can just start now. Our lesson for today will be discussed further, but at this moment we will be having a motivational activity. I want everyone to listen and be attentive. For the mechanics, I will be presenting to you a jumbled letters and I will call somebody to answer or guess the correct word. Is it clear on your end atong PowerPoint presentation or not?
Para ma'am, dahil lesson 1.
Okay, ready na mo? Okay, for the first jumbled words, can you guess what it is? Can somebody guess the correct answer? Are you still there? Dumugra mo?
Yes, miss. Ropes. Ako, miss.
Okay, who's that? John? Yes, John can.
Yes, miss.
What's the
It's
answer?
pros, miss.
Okay, that's
Pros.
correct. So the answer is prose. Can you tell me what is prose for you?
Kan, miss, it's a written or spoken language in its ordinary form without metrical structures.
Okay, thank you for your answer and for your explanation also. So let's proceed to the next jumbled word. REPYONT. Anyone? Can somebody guess the correct word?
Ako, miss.
Again, what's your answer? Okay, correct. Poetry. Next, let's have another word. This one. Can somebody guess the correct word?
Ako, miss.
Yes. Molina.
Rhyme po, miss.
Correct. And next, we have, for this one, who can answer?
Stanza.
Correct. Thank you for answering. Ace. Now, let's proceed to the last word. Who can guess this jumbled letters?
Sorry, ma'am.
Thank you, Ed. That's correct. It's story. So now, I think every one of you can now guess the topic of our lesson for tonight. So let's proceed to the lecture proper. Today, we will be discussing about prose versus poetry. First, let us discuss the definition, characteristics, and examples of prose. The definition of prose is that it is an ordinary writing style in literature, which encompasses characters, plot, mood, theme, the point of view, setting, etc., making it a distinctive form of language. Next, we have its characteristics. For the prose, it is written in a form of paragraph, and it is composed of dialogues and sometimes images with no metric structure. Lastly, it can be fictional or non-fictional, heroic, alliterative, village, polyphonic, and prose poetry, etc. So for the prose, it is defined as a type of literature that is in a form of paragraph, means lengthy siya, and it does not follow any metric structure or any rhythm on its writing. It can be also fictional or non-fictional. And next, let's have the examples of prose. We have biography, autobiography, memoir, essay, short stories, just like fairy tales, articles, novels, blogs, and so forth. Use of prose for creative writing. So now we already have discussed the prose. Let's proceed to poetry. For poetry, it is something that arouses completely imaginative feeling by choosing appropriate language and selective words and arranging them in a manner that creates a proper pattern, rhyme, just like two or more words having identical ending sounds, and rhythm, which is the cadence of poem. So for poetry, it can be a way of a writer to express his feelings, his mood, and it is composed of different theme when writing a poem. So next, let's have the elements of poetry. So for the elements, first we have rhyme, which means it is the same ending sound for each verses of a poem. And for the verse, it is the lines of the poem. And for stanzas, it is a combination or it is a group of verses that makes up the stanzas. And for the meter, it is the rhythmic pattern that is composed when we already have our whole stanza. And for the theme, it is what we call the central mood for each poem. Just like we can have the theme of nature or love or anything that the writer would like to express. So that's it for our definition, characteristics, elements, and the examples of prose and poetry. Now let's proceed to the key differences between prose and poetry. So for prose, it is different from poetry for some reasons. First, we have that prose has ordinary language and sentence structure, while poetry is aesthetic by nature. Example, it has sounds, cadence, rhyme, meter, etc. that adds to its meaning. Number two, we have the language of prose is direct and straightforward. On the other hand, poetry use expressive or creative language. And number three, prose is pragmatic while poetry is figurative. For number four, prose contains paragraph while poetry is written in verses to form stanzas. And number five, the prose is utilitarian, which conveys hidden lesson or idea. And conversely, poetry aims to delight or amuse reader. And lastly, the most important thing, for number six, the most important thing is prose is the message or the information. It gives the message or information. In contrast, the poet share his or her experience with the reader in a poetry. For number seven, in prose, there are no line breaks, whereas in poetry, there are a number of line breaks that follows the beat or stress on an idea. And lastly, both prose and poetry can be paraphrased, but in poetry, the paraphrase is not on the lines because of the presence of the style of writing, just like verses and stanzas. So it cannot be summarized. So here is, I present to you the key differences of prose and poetry. I hope every one of you can now identify the differences of poetry and verse. Do you have any questions based on my discussions, class? Or let's proceed to the next activity. No questions?
And Miss,
Okay, thank you for that answer. And now we will do an application based on the lesson, based on what we had. And for the application, let's have it in a multiple choice. And as an instruction, choose the best answer. And I will ask someone to give the correct answer. Okay, let's start with number 1. Can someone read and answer? For number 1, anyone? Can I ask? Okay, John Kenzie for number 1.
Yes, miss. Below are the characteristics of a prose except A. Composed of dialogues and sometimes images. B. It is written in the form of a paragraph. C. It can be fictional or non-fictional, heroic, alliterative, village, etc. Or letter D. It aims to delight or amuse the readers. For me, miss, it's letter D.
Okay, that's correct. Because letter D is a characteristic of a poetry. It aims to delight or amuse the reader. Now let's proceed to number 2. Who can answer? For number 2, can I have Mulet? Are you there? Kinsa? Again, for number 2, can I have Vincent Molet to answer? Okay, since I think there is a problem from Vincent Molet, let's proceed to Ed Novales. And I have Ed Novales for number 2.
It is defined as an ordinary writing style in literature which encompasses characters, plot, mood, theme, the point of view, setting, etc., making it a distinctive form of language. A. Poem. B. Prose. C. Poetry. D. Story. Letter B. Prose.
Okay, that's correct. B is prose, and prose, its definition is stated in number 2. Thank you. Let's proceed to number 3. Who can answer for number 3?
Me, miss.
Okay, Molina.
Below are the elements of poetry except A. Meter, B. Paragraph, C. Rhyme, D. Rhyme. Letter B, miss.
Okay, that's correct. Paragraph belongs to prose. Thank you, Molina. So, let's proceed to number 4. Who can answer? Dapat na sa atin. Okay, for number 4. Saan to? Kisa to? Again, for number 4. Okay, Baguio.
Number 4. It is defined as something that arouses complete imaginative feeling by choosing appropriate language and selective words and arranging them in manner that creates a proper pattern, rhyme, and rhythm. I think the answer is C, poetry.
Your answer is poetry. Okay, that's correct. That is the definition of poetry. It defines as something that arouses completely imaginative feeling by choosing appropriate language and selective words and arranging them in a manner that creates proper pattern, rhyme, and rhythm. Let's proceed to number 5. For number 5, it is composed of 2 or more words having identical ending sound. What is your answer? For others that can't speak, or you can send your answers on the comment box or the chat box. Again, for number 5, what is your answer? That's correct. It's rhyme, having 2 or more words with identical ending sounds. For number 6, who can read for number 6?
which is not an example of prose. A meets theme.
Okay, that's correct. Theme is part of the characteristics of poetry. When we have poetry, we can look for different themes. While biography, autobiography, and memoir are examples of prose. Let's proceed to number 7. Okay, for number 7, can I have Ace?
It is the central idea that the poem wants to convey. D. Theme.
Correct. It's the theme. For number 8, who can guess the correct answer? It is the cadence of poem. A. Symbolism. B. Rhythm. C. Rhyme. D. Theme. What is your answer?
D, miss.
Correct. It's letter B. It is the rhythm of the poem. Okay, last 2 questions. For number 9, who wants to answer?
Me, miss. If you are more on the expressive and creative way of writing, what form of literature should you write? For me, miss, it's letter C, poetry.
Correct. If you are more on the expressive and creative way of writing, you are to write your own kind of poetry. Last number 10.
Number 10. Ako, miss. Team ko na ba? Number 10. If you are more on writing a sequence of event with a plot, character, and setting, and etc., what form of literature should you write? Answer is letter B, prose.
Correct. That is correct, John. It is prose. If you are more on writing a paragraph with plot, character, and setting, you are to write prose. Okay, class, thank you for your participation, and you all got the correct answers. It means that you already learned the lesson and you are able to identify the characteristics, definitions, elements, and the differentiation of prose and poetry. Now let's proceed to some announcements. For the announcements, I will be giving you your quiz or your evaluation after this class. I will send it to your LMS, and the title of your activity, your quiz is Prose versus Poetry Worksheet. And the deadline for this is on Wednesday. And I hope everyone can secure their internet for the quiz because I will only allow you to answer it once. And the second announcement is about your assignment. For your assignment, I want you to, on a short bond paper, to write your own composition of a prose or poetry with your own chosen topic, provided that you follow the characteristics, elements of prose and poetry in writing. So there are no limitation or maximum number of words as long as you provide that you follow the characteristics and elements of prose and poetry. Do you have any questions about the announcements or anything? Pass?
None, miss.
Okay, that's it for today, class. I hope that I will see you again next time for the next lesson. And please prepare yourselves. I will be uploading the material on the LMS for you to study for your quiz. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Miss.
Bye.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone.